What up, everybody? You thought I was gone, but I'm back. It's Ask Jason Lee. You got a question, I got an answer. Let's go. So I know a lot of you watched the last video and asked a lot of questions to me, both there and online, of wanting to know how you can kind of have the success or experiences that we've been able to have here at Hollywood Unlocked. I did not answer you because I didn't want to. We shot the first show as part of a beta test of new content to see what people like. Not everybody wants advice. Some people think they know it all. So this show is for those of you that admittedly, like me, know that you don't know it all, but have questions about how you can achieve the same success or at least similar success that I and others have had. So whether it's going to be me answering your questions directly or me and a guest who's also successful answering your questions, this is your space to be able to interact with me on all things non-tea. So everybody, every time I go online, they think I'm a Starbucks brew, just a teacup. Everything got to be tea. Some people want to understand the business behind the tea because the tea is what keeps your attention, but the business is why I'm in it, and that is Hollywood Unlocked. All right, so I have questions. I didn't ignore you. We wrote them down, tuck them in a safe place, but now here we are. And if you have more questions when you're done, we're gonna tell you how you can submit your question to get it answered by me. All right, the first question comes from Sonny's mama. What has being in the industry taught you, and what does it continue to teach you? I have a book that I just completed called God Must Have Forgot About Me. And in the book, it really starts with the young dreamer of a guy who looked at people in entertainment and wanted to be a part of that community. And although the glitz and glamour is what drew me in, I didn't really understand the functionality of the business and how much hard work it actually takes to going behind whatever it is you're doing, whether it's behind the curtain at a Broadway show, behind the music in a studio, or behind the camera in the film. There's a lot of business from accounting down to which involves taxes, down to how you administer your business and hold your team accountable. But more importantly, how you get people to buy into your vision. One of the things that the industry taught me is that the industry is not loyal. There is no loyalty in the industry. It is really all about your contribution, what you bring to the table, what transactional value you have to the people that you want to work with and the people that you want to associate with. But also, equally important, how many people you allow to be in your space. I've learned a long time ago, and it was Lunel who's been on my show a few times now that taught me this lesson. I've known Lunel since I was 16 years old. She was a comedian coming to the Bay Area, and I was just a young guy straight out of foster care, running around trying to figure out my life. Lunel told me when I got to LA, I used to call her all the time and say, yo, you got to come to this industry event. You got to go to this industry event. You got to go to that industry event. And Lunel said to me, baby, when you going to stop being the staple of the event and become the event? And that was one of the life-changing experiences for me that helped transform how I interact with people in the industry, because whereas I thought being successful meant being everywhere and knowing everybody, it was more about being strategic and building brand value. That way, when you walk in a room, you become the event versus an expectation of everybody that goes to every event in the city. The other thing I learned is that the industry should be a zip code and a place where you work. It is not an attitude, and it is not a way of assembling character, right? The industry, again, is a very rough place, and there's a lot of bad people out there and a lot of bad experiences. But the beautiful part of your journey is being able to set exactly what your expectation is to get out of the industry. And when you know exactly what you want, you will manifest it if you put in the hard work. Another lesson is that I've learned that now with social media, you really can't become an instant business. All you have to do is create a free account, create a URL for about $19.99 a month, and from that point, be able to build exactly what you want your business to be. You have to find a niche that exists only for you, or that is like what everybody else does, but very specific to your niche, and then just market the hell out of it. Many people are gonna tell you your dreams are not valid. When I started Hollywood Unlocked, so many people told me there's no room in the space for you. The Shade Room's doing it, Baller Alert's doing it, People Magazine's doing it. But I always believed that we had a very specific and unique vision that separated us from everybody else. And so I honed into that. I found people that bought into it, and then I pressed go. So the next question comes from Pretty Viv. Do you think you have to have a thick skin to do what you do, considering talking about sensitive topics? This is what I tell people. On Love and Hip Hop this season, you see me saying that I'm just doing the Lord's work. Now, mind you, if you know me personally, I listen to gospel music every day. I love Karen Clark Sheard and the Clark sisters, and I love God. So I really do believe that I'm doing the Lord's work when I'm being honest. Honesty is hurtful at sometimes, and sometimes the harsh truth does hurt people. That said, I am merely a reflection of the world. What we put out on Hollywood Unlocked are not contrived stories. They're not make believe. It's not some type of game that we're playing with people. We just tell it in a way, I tell it in a way that makes people talk, right? So what I've learned is that, yes, you absolutely have to have tough skin in what I do, but guess what? If you're a singer that has to go out on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people, or create a product and then birth that product and put it out and hope that the people show up to buy it, there's a lot of courage that goes into that too. But then you also have to have courage to be a police officer. You have to have the courage to be an operating room nurse. Everybody that goes in the industry, any industry, has to have courage. And I would say that having courage doesn't always come with having confidence. I have a lot of confidence. I am one that could admit that I've done something wrong and pivot and get it right, but I'm a perfectionist by heart, even though I know perfection is not real. But I am somebody who has a lot of confidence. So along with that courage to tell the truth, I have the confidence in the facts behind my reporting. That's why you don't see a lot of celebrities online saying Hollywood Unlocked is not truthful or that Jason Lee's a liar. Jason Lee spills the tea, but the tea is typically correct facts. So yeah, you have to have courage, but more importantly, you have to have confidence. Next question comes from Humble Than Most. How do you handle a situation where you have a baby mother who wants you out the home and your son is only 2 years old? Well, I handled that pretty accurately at 19 and I got me a nigga. But I will say that if that's not an option for you and you actually want to know how you should work things out for your kid, I did an interview with Serge Ibaka and I asked Serge how him and the mother of his child worked on their relationship so that way they can co-parent, and this is what he had to say.
My daughter already knows me and her mom. We don't really communicate. We always argue. So till one day my daughter asked me, Dad, why you always argue with mom? That thing hit me hard, bro. Like sometimes you think like kids, they don't really.
No, they see it. They see it and they know it and they absorb the energy.
I know. And I'm telling you what now, that thing really hit me. I had to call her, listen. I had to sit there, listen. You know what? I'm done. I'm really tired. Well, I don't want to argue with you, And I think for the best of her daughter, let's be good. Like if I did something wrong, talk to me. I want to listen to you. I'm not trying to be here. No, I want to listen. If you use something you don't like, I did something, or you don't want me to take my daughter some places, talk to me. It's her daughter. It's not only my daughter, and I'm trying to only take her from you. And I'm bringing her to the United States because she can have a better education. It's gonna be the best for us, right? So I have to talk to her, explain to her, listen, I don't really want to argue no more. If I do something, talk to me, and then we're gonna fix it. And if I have some decision to make about my daughter, we're gonna do it together. All right? And then, after we had that talk, everything changed, and I can see that energy from my daughter. I can see that. I can see that from my daughter, and it really changed my daughter. Like I can see my daughter, when she around me, she's happy to talk about her mom.
That's so good.
And when I call her mom, like we talk. When she's with her mom, she's happy to talk about me and say her mom name while her mom's next on my phone. But before, she know me and her mom was not cool. You can see that different.
So if it worked for Serge, I'm sure it can work for you. One thing we don't want to have is resentment when that kid grows up for you and the other parent, because as a product of that shit, it will happen. All right, the next question is from _K.RY_. Your life is crazy right now with all of your success. Do you take care of yourself mentally and physically? What keeps you happy outside of work? Now, I'll be honest with you, that is actually really hard for me. And one of the things that I've struggled with recently is this is really how I've lived. And I'm not saying that this is, in any way a thing that you guys should assimilate. I work until I get sick, and then I take a break, and then once I'm feeling better, I work again. There is no on and off switch. I am always on. If my eyes are open, I'm working. If I'm on vacation, even though I say I'm going to unplug and just, disassociate myself from the work, I find myself going through numbers, going through stats, going through incoming wires or whatever. So I am consumed with it, but I'm gonna tell you a little story. One time I was talking to Floyd Mayweather, and he said to me, until you become so in love with what you do and obsessed with it, you will never be successful. And I thought I was consumed with Hollywood Unlocked. I was doing my stuff. I was filming Love and Hip Hop. But that's when I said, okay, I'm going to switch gears and literally fall in love with it, right? And I did. And if you remember, and if you've been around since 2000, from the early days, about 4 years ago, the last year was a really rough year. We lost our Instagram at 1.2 million followers, and we lost a lot of revenue. We got sued and we went through a lot of hard times, but we never really lost our way financially because we had so many other verticals coming in. One thing that I learned from Perez Hilton when that happened was he called and he said, and this is a G in the game. He said, this is a great lesson for you to not have only one stream of revenue. And I took that to heart and I literally started creating multiple streams of revenue. Then I decided in my mind that somebody was trying to take something from me. I had worked hard to get to a certain place with Hollywood Unlocked. We had the podcast or whatever. We had these millions of followers. I said, I'm going to do everything it takes to get the page back. But more importantly, beyond that, I'm going to work my ass off. And if you've seen me, this year we've done every talk show. I got my page back. We grew about 500,000 followers since then, just a few months ago. We dropped the biggest story of the year. I went back to Love and Hip Hop to continue to market and bring awareness to my brand. And I've done so much more beyond that, setting up for a very successful year to come. So I would say, yes, I know the importance of taking care of myself. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I do as much as I probably should. But I will say one rule that I am reinstating for 2020 is that after every short success of something I accomplish, I'm going to take a vacation, if even only for 4 days, because I think having balance to your work is really important. The next question is from Lolita_La_Mueca. Just celebrated a birthday, and I'm interested to know, what are your thoughts on getting older and still trying to achieve your version of success? Man, I ain't gonna lie. Everybody knows I'm very open with my age. I'm 42 years old. I started Hollywood Unlocked about 4 years ago. I was like turning 38. I was 37. And I remember thinking like, man, this is what I wanted to get into the industry. This is what I wanted to accomplish years ago. But most of you that know my story know my brother was murdered. It delayed a lot of my getting out beyond my comfort zone and having a stable career. And it wasn't until later on when I found myself in LA and found myself in a position where I could actually create the vision that I have for myself at a younger age. When I first started, because it was so hard at 37, I was like, man, like this is really difficult. But then you look at Oprah Winfrey. Oprah started at 35. She started a talk show at 35. And a lot of other celebrities have started their careers later in life. What I have learned is that there is no too late to start anything, right? You can start something. I saw recently Gary Vee posted a meme where on one side there were different levels of people at different ages in their life. Is it too late to start? Is it too late to start? And the answer on the other side was no. This girl asked me yesterday, she said, I really want to start a podcast, but I don't know where to start or when to start or how to start. Can you give me advice? She literally caught me walking out the door. I said, here's the advice. Start it. Starting it, whatever it is the single most valuable advice I can give a person at no matter what age they are, because age doesn't determine success. Hard work, dedication, drive, and passion for what you want to do is the determining factor. So the next question comes from Doria18. How can you separate your job from the bond you have with some people? Okay, this is a really funny question, and I'm going to answer it honestly because that's what I do. So I've said this on my podcast recently, but I'll say it to you. I had a relationship with Karrueche Tran years ago. Introduced her to Chris Brown. They got together. Things changed. Karrueche became a public person, and I understand probably under a lot of scrutiny from the press, and so didn't felt some type of way. I then became a part of the press. So I recently ran into Karrueche at the nail shop, ironically, and I said to her, like, you single-handedly helped reshape my business. And she said, how? And I said to her, when I launched my podcast, I just expected everybody I knew to come on my show because you know me, we're cool, whatever. And where I come from, you're either friends or enemies. There's no middle ground. There's no fake friends. Like, you're just cool or you're not cool. That's what it is. So I just assumed that we were friends. And I think the reality of our experiences helped me understand what friends in Hollywood and in this business means. We have an industry relationship. And so it really helped me to start compartmentalizing where everybody in my life existed, right? Many of you see me online with a lot of celebrities that I'm cool with, and you assume, oh man, they're friends. He ain't never gonna tell their truth. And the reality is I actually do tell their truth. I just get to tell it through a different lens because I have direct access to them. So if something happens in the press, and I'll give you an example. last year when Tiffany Haddish was in Miami and we got too drunk. And it became a headline for her because she just refused to tell the jokes at her show. Now, why would I write the story that the people are saying about her when I was there? So what I did was I hosted a live interview with Tiffany at the Laugh Factory to raise money for her and foster kids that she sponsors, because she too was a foster kid like me. And we were able to talk about it in a humorous way to put it to rest, and now the headline is gone. And so I choose to include them in the process, and anybody I have a contact with, whether it's Sway Lee or ASAP Rocky, I'm going to always give them the chance to give their perspective, unlike other people that just write and hope that they respond or react online. But that, I think, is a single-handed reason why you haven't seen celebrities attack us online for the stories that we write, because if we have a relationship with them or direct access to them, we reach out to them. As far as people who are my friends, and I can say, on one hand, I could probably count them, maybe two max, right? And I'm not going to name names because then I'm going to start getting calls. Why not? Why didn't you say my name? The reality is all of the people that choose to become my friend know what I do for a living, and they respect what I do just like I respect them. I can't tell you one time Queen Latifah called me and asked me to listen to a song before she put it on the record. Cardi didn't do that. Tiffany ain't asked me for one joke before she said it. So I don't ask them for permission to do what I do, and they respect that. So the next question is from Harley_post. Does a guy need to explicitly ask you to be his girlfriend for it to be official? I mean, listen, let's just keep it real. We live in the day where people are just having sex just to be having sex. I ain't even just talking about LA. This is happening in North Dakota too. Hi, North Dakota. I think everybody should be clear on where they stand in their relationship with people, right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to get into a relationship and do stupid things, because we all do stupid things when we're in lust or whether we think we're in love or whatever. But if you dating somebody for several months and don't know y'all dating, y'all got issues. So of course somebody should explicitly ask you if you could be their girlfriend or their boyfriend. But if they don't ask you, you have the obligation to yourself to say, hey, what is this? Because at the end of the day, time is the only thing that you can never get back. So yeah, I wouldn't waste any time with somebody that don't want to be clear. And I'm single, by the way, so I am not an expert in falling in love. I'm in love with Hollywood Unlocked. That is the person that I'm with. I don't cheat on that motherfucker. And we are on the same page. Now, when it comes to another breathing human being, I ain't mastered that yet. So I ain't hardly got all the advice for you at this point. All right, the next question is from Hippie Scandal. How do you finagle a potential work relationship from a love interest to working partners? Man, I will tell you, a dream relationship for me would be to be in a relationship with somebody that I can actually build with, right? My last relationship that I reference a lot on my podcast, I will tell you, is something where we both found each other at a time where we both wanted to grow in our respective lanes. He was a model, and I wanted to be in the industry, in particular media. And so what we were able to do was we were able to come together and find stability in our relationship, in our living situations, and then meet and come to a common understanding of this relationship also being business. I believe many people get in relationships because they feel like they're falling in love. But let me tell you something, love don't feel good if you can't put a meal on the table or pay rent or be able to have, some freedom in traveling or moving around or even shopping. Like there's just no way that you can be in love with a person that you aren't building an actual business relationship with or treating the relationship like a business. I will say the greatest part about our relationship was we woke up every morning and had breakfast together and mapped out our day, mapped out our week, mapped out our month. We continually checked in with each other on all aspects, from him doing meal planning to, me being able to invest in certain products that we were selling. And I think it was something that was able to work for us. Now, we did that right out the gate. I don't think you can get in a relationship and be in it for a year or two and then look up and all of a sudden want to have a conversation about how you treat it like a business. Because this was what I said when I broke up. If you and I are putting everything we have, investing everything we have in a business, and it's not giving us a return on our investment, how long would we continue to be in business? And he said we would just terminate the business. And that was when we decided to end it, because we both felt that we were no longer getting the investment that we were putting into one another. So I would say to you that if you're in a relationship or thinking of getting in a relationship, right out the gate, you need to sit down and talk about how you are going to manage that relationship in all aspects, from financial to physical to emotional well-being and beyond. Because if that's the person you're investing for a long future, the only way it's going to work is if you have those conversations early. So the next question is from Mama of a Six Pack. Hilarious. What's your biggest motivation? My biggest motivation, I think, is when I sit back and I look at Hollywood Unlocked, my radio show, my podcast, all of our engagement on social media, I realize that I've locked into something that I'm passionate about. But now writing my book and understanding what's coming for 2020, I now know that I'm locking into my purpose, and that's to be able to do this and have this kind of interaction with people who actually want to learn how they can live their best life, how they can achieve all of the dreams that they have, that I had, that I was abandoning as a young kid and even as a young adult. Because knowing that I'm going to impact one person, at least one, I've already met two that said I impacted them, but know that I can continue to build a platform to help other people who've had debilitating trauma or reasons that they couldn't be successful realize that they can reach their fullest potential is a big motivating factor to me. When I look at all the things that I'm creating, I'm like, okay, I don't know how long this is going to last, but as long as it's successful and it's growing, I'm going to keep on going. Sort of like this show, right? So I think what motivates me is just the belief that I'm here for a higher purpose and that my passion is leading me to my purpose, with the hopes that I'll be able to inspire those beyond my network. All right, so that's all the answers to the questions that you put out this week. I give you my word, I'm gonna come back and do more. Now that I know you wanna hear from me on advice, motivation, and relationships, what you can do is post a video online, ask me what you think, or tweet me at @theonlyJasonLee, and I'll make sure to respond to you. Also add the hashtag AskJasonLee so I make sure I catch it. And until then, I'm out. Peace.